To understand why Friday night changed the landscape of professional wrestling forever, you first have to understand the silence. For months, the SmackDown women's division had been living under the boot of a singular, dominant force. We aren't just talking about a champion. We are talking about a tyrant, a ruler who had systematically dismantled every hero, every legend, and every up-and-comer who dared to step between the ropes. The audience had grown accustomed to the inevitable. They knew the drill. The music hits, the pyro goes off, the champion raises the title, and the opponent leaves broken. The unpredictability that fuels the WWE Universe had been suffocated by dominance. The roster was depleted. The locker room was terrified. Hope wasn't just fading, it was extinguished. The wrestling world was screaming for a savior, but nobody was answering the call. Week after week, the commentators Michael Cole and Corey Graves were out of superlatives. They ran out of ways to describe the stranglehold this champion had on the blue brand. The ratings were high, but the morale was low. The fans in the arena weren't booing out of fun anymore. They were booing out of genuine frustration. They wanted a change, wanted a shock to the system. But as the road to WrestleMania began to heat up, it seemed like the company had painted itself into a corner. Who was left? Who could possibly match the aura, the physicality, and the star power of the woman holding the gold? Rumors started swirling on Twitter X. Dirt sheets were speculating. Was it a call-up from NXT? Was it a celebrity crossover? Or was it something much, much bigger? No one knew for sure. But everyone felt that something had to give. The pressure in the pot was building, and on this specific episode of Friday Night SmackDown, the lid was finally about to blow off. The scene was set in Chicago, Illinois, a city known for having the most hostile, vocal, and educated wrestling crowds in the world. The Allstate Arena was sold out, packed to the rafters with 15,000 screaming fans. The energy in the building was different that night. You could feel it through the screen. There was a nervous tension in the air. The show had been solid, featuring great tag team action and a heavy-hitting Intercontinental title match, but everyone was waiting for the main event. The Tribal Chief wasn't in the building. The focus was squarely on the Women's Championship segment. The champion had demanded a celebration of greatness. She demanded the ring be decorated. She demanded a red carpet. She demanded that the entire locker room come out to the stage to witness her acknowledgement. It was the ultimate act of arrogance, designed to humiliate her peers and antagonize the Chicago crowd. As the show moved into its final 20 minutes, the production team went into overdrive. We saw shots of the locker room wrestlers looking dejected, forced to march out to the stage like prisoners of war. We saw the ring crew setting up a podium. The lights in the arena were dimmed to a singular spotlight. The commercial break felt longer than usual, building that anticipation. When the feed returned, the boos were deafening.
Ow.
It wasn't go-away heat. It was nuclear heat. The champion made her entrance, taking her sweet time, soaking in every ounce of hatred the Windy City had to offer. She climbed the steps, entered the ring, and grabbed the microphone. For 10 agonizing minutes, she berated the crowd. She insulted the city. She buried the roster standing on the stage. She claimed that she was the forever champion and that there was no woman on earth, past or present, who could lace her boots. "I have retired your heroes," she screamed, her voice echoing through the arena. "I have sent the legends packing. There's no one left. This is my show, this is my era, and you will all acknowledge me as the greatest of all time." The crowd tried to drown her out with chants, calling for anyone, literally anyone, to shut her up, but she just laughed. It was a maniacal laugh, the sound of someone who truly believed they were untouchable. She turned her attention to the camera. Looking directly into the lens, breaking the fourth wall, "You at home? Stop hoping. Stop praying. No one is coming to save you." It was a masterclass in villainy. She raised the title high above her head, the gold glinting under the spotlight, signaling the segment was over. The referee moved to open the ropes for her exit. The production truck queued up her exit music. The show was seconds away from going off the air with the villain standing tall, yet again. And then, it happened. The production logo for her music appeared on the Titantron, but the audio distorted. It wasn't a clean cut. It was a screeching digital tear. The massive LED screens wrapping around the arena flickered violently red, black, white, then static. The champion lowered the title, looking confused. She yelled at the timekeeper, thinking it was a technical error. "Fix it!" she mouthed, visibly annoyed. But the glitch didn't stop. It got louder. A low, bass-heavy hum began to vibrate through the arena speakers, shaking the floorboards. The crowd, sensing this wasn't an accident, went from booing to a hushed, confused murmur. Then, in a split second, every single light in the Allstate Arena cut out, pitch black. The only light came from the thousands of cell phone flashlights instantly popping up in the crowd, creating a galaxy of stars in the darkness. The silence lasted for 10 seconds. 10 seconds of absolute uncertainty. The commentary team, usually so vocal, said nothing. They let the moment breathe. The champion was alone in the dark ring, spinning around, trying to find the source of the interruption. Then, a single sound pierced the darkness, a sound that hadn't been heard on SmackDown in years. It might have been a coin drop. It might have been the screech of a crow. It might have been a specific, haunting piano note. Whatever it was, the reaction was instantaneous. It wasn't just a pop. It was an explosion. The roof of the Allstate Arena nearly blew off. The sound of 15,000 people recognizing a returning legend is unlike anything else in sports. It is a primal roar. A single spotlight snapped on at the top of the ramp. And there she stood, the returning icon. The woman who had vanished, the one the fans had been fantasy booking for years. She didn't look like she had missed a step. She looked sharper, more dangerous, evolved. She wasn't wearing her old gear. She was dressed for a fight, leather jacket, taped fists, eyes locked on the ring. The Titan Trend finally flared to life, displaying her name in massive, bold letters. The commentary team lost their minds. "Oh my God, are you kidding me?" shouted Michael Cole, his voice cracking with genuine emotion. "Shay's back. The impossible has just happened on Friday Night SmackDown." The camera cut to the crowd. People were crying, jumping up and down, hugging strangers. It was pure, unadulterated shock. The champion in the ring, usually so composed, looked like she had seen a ghost. She dropped the title belt. Color drained from her face. This wasn't just a challenger. This was the one woman she knew she couldn't bully. The returning star didn't smile. She didn't play to the crowd. She began a slow, predatory walk down the ramp. Every step was deliberate. The music was blaring, but you could barely hear it over the chants of Holy Stee, filling the arena. She walked past the roster on the stage, who parted like the Red Sea, looking at her with a mix of respect and fear. This was royalty returning to reclaim the throne. She slid into the ring, rolling under the bottom rope with that familiar fluidity. She stood up slowly and walked right into the face of the champion, nose to nose. The height difference didn't matter. The size difference didn't matter. The intensity radiating from the returnee was overpowering. The music cut. The crowd buzzed, then fell silent, desperate to hear what would happen. No microphones were used. This didn't need words. The champion tried to regain her composure, sneering, "Get out of my ring." The returnee simply tilted her head, a smirk finally creeping across her face. And then the fight was on. The champion threw a desperate right hand, but the returnee ducked it with lightning speed. Counter. A massive clothesline leveled the champion. The crowd erupted again. The returnee unleashed a flurry of strike signature moves that we hadn't seen in years, executed with perfection. The champion, realizing she was outmatched, scrambled out of the ring, grabbing her title and retreating through the crowd, looking back with wide eyes. The returning legend stood tall in the center of the ring, picking up the microphone that the champion had dropped. She looked around at the Chicago crowd, listening to the chant of her name. She brought the mic to her lips and said just 3 words, "I'm not finished." She spiked the mic. Her music hit again. SmackDown went off the air. The camera focused on her eyes, burning with a fire that signaled a new era had begun. The tyranny was over. The war had just started. And the wrestling world would never be the same again.